Hey everybody, Chris with chrisbello.com, and today I just want to talk about commitment and how you need to do what you say you are going to do. We all have a lot of different friends, or we know people who say they're going to do one thing and then 2 weeks later they've already given up on that idea. You see this a lot at meetups and at networking events. People show up to the first event, they're all excited about this new idea. They see people on stage who are talking about how they quit their 9 to 5 to start something and they've made like 50 grand on their second month. People are really excited to try this new thing, and then when you follow up with them 2 weeks later, they're sitting there on the couch watching an entire season of Netflix and telling you that they decided to wait until they have more time and until things wind down before they start that thing. I've always been a huge advocate of taking massive action right away. Break things now and fix them later. Just start to take action. You don't need to line up all the ducks in a row. Instead of ready, aim, fire, they say ready, fire, aim is a phrase that I hear a lot. And one thing that I've talked about before is whenever you wake up in the morning, don't hit the snooze button, because that is literally as insignificant as it sounds, as hitting snooze once or twice. You're starting your morning off by telling your subconscious mind while you're half asleep or half awake, whichever way the phrase goes, you're telling yourself that it's okay to not honor commitments that you made for yourself. You obviously set the time to wake up for a reason, unless you are that person who has to set 5 alarms because you know you're going to snooze through them all. You set a time, you're supposed to wake up for a certain thing. You might have to get to work at a certain time or have a meeting or an appointment with a client. Now, if you're late to an appointment with a client, they're going to remember that you're late. They don't care if there was traffic or an accident or the whole freeway was shut down. All they're going to remember is that you made them wait for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes on you. And first impressions are very hard to change. First impressions are last impressions, as the saying goes. I talked about this in a previous episode where you should know what to say no to. And this kind of ties in with the commitment thing, because if you've ever been the person to say yes to everything, to everyone, you notice that if you start to say yes to too many things, you start to drop the ball on a lot of different projects. Commitments that you made, you fall through on. Promises are broken, and you start to violate that trust that people have in you. How you can solve that problem is to know when to say no. If you've got too much on your plate, if you're already overcommitted and overbooked, if somebody asks you to hang out or to help them with a project or whatever it is, don't feel bad to say no. Say that you've got your hands full, you can't take on any more, you'd love to help them out in a couple weeks, and half the time the people who are asking for help just go to somebody else, or they don't even commit enough to finish that project, so you kind of get out of that task. You want to be the person who people can have faith in and can trust. When you say you're going to do something, they'll know that you follow through and that you commit 100%. I like to be known. I like people to think, oh, Chris told me he's going to do this, it's going to get done. Not the person who's like, it's Chris. He said he's going to do this. It's probably not going to happen. And we all know people who, if you ask them to do something, you know you're going to have to ask them again because they're probably going to forget 5 seconds later. You don't want to be that person. It's extremely frustrating to deal with these kind of people who say they're going to do something and then they don't follow through, or they forget, they don't put it on their calendar. Here's a personal example. Someone was asking me, he reached out to me and asked for my time. He wanted to meet at a coffee shop and he wanted to just catch up and pick my brain and talk some ideas and stuff. About an hour before, he told me, hey man, something came up, I can't make it, I got to work on some stuff. I said, okay, the first time, gave him the benefit of the doubt. I said, that's fine, we'll reschedule. And since it was close, I hadn't left my house, I wasn't too inconvenienced. The second time came around, literally the same thing happened. About an hour or two before the appointment or our meeting, same thing. Bro, something came up with work, I can't meet up, let's reschedule. After that point, I didn't really make much of an effort to follow up and get anything on the calendar, because it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. I didn't really have faith that that commitment was there to make this meeting happen, and it was obviously not important enough to follow through with me. So why should I try to go out of my way and set up this appointment? And you don't want to be like the boy who cried wolf, because the next time you actually do need help and you try to reach out to people for help, they're going to say, why should I put the effort and time in? You're just not going to follow through on whatever I tell you anyway. I like to implement quickly. So whenever you get advice, if it's good advice from a mentor who's a proven mentor and successful in a field of your choice, when they give you advice, try it, implement it, show them the results, tweak it, test it, and go from there. Don't just stash it in the bottom of your brain or write it down on a piece of paper and lose it, because they're not going to be so willing to give you advice next time if you don't take action on it. To summarize, commit, do the work, keep your word, say no when your plate is full, know when enough is enough. And when you do this, people are going to take note. A good question to ask yourself is, are you just interested in what you're doing, or are you truly, fully, 100% committed? There's a big difference in how your action's going to be if you're interested versus fully committed. There's a really cool Eric Thomas quote, and he's obviously in a lot of motivational videos and stuff. If you've never heard of Eric Thomas, look him up and look at some of his content. It's very motivating and inspiring. In one of the motivational videos, he said, I need you to have heart because there's some things you just can't get without perseverance. You've got to have heart because sometimes you'll get hurt and you got to be able to bounce back. You got to be resilient. Sometimes you're going to face obstacles. You might pass the test on the 4th try, not the 1st, not the 2nd, not the 3rd. And you got to have the ability to get back up and act like you never failed in the first place. That's extremely motivating to me because it's true. So many people give up if they fail once or twice. They say, this thing doesn't work, or it's not for me, or I'm not good at it, when really they might be this close to making it succeed. You don't know. It might take 5 tries or 10 tries. It could even take 50 tries. But all I know is that the only time you fail is when you quit. Failure is not when something does not work out. Failure is when you give up. If you keep on trying and you keep on learning and testing and tweaking, you're going to continually improve. Every failure is kind of getting one step closer to accomplishing something. So some of the key takeaways from today's episode is to commit, to do the work, to stay true to your word, give 110%, even when nobody is watching, and then you can just sit back and watch as your dreams become reality. If you settle for mediocrity, if you come up with excuses for even the smallest of things, those excuses are going to snowball even and shift into the bigger things that you're working on. You're going to find that you're not able to commit to anything, and no one's going to trust that you're going to do what you say you'll do. And then a really great motivational quote from Eric Thomas that I wanted to leave you with is, you've come too far to quit now. You need to get a reward for it. So if you've put in all this time and effort, why quit? You got to get something out of it. Keep on pushing, get to the end, and get your reward. Some of the actionable steps that you can take are to actively self-evaluate your commitments. I talk about this on other episodes, that you should have goals, annual, weekly, monthly, daily, all kinds of goals. And those goals should basically be on your calendar. If it's not on your calendar, it's not going to get done. So take a look at your calendar. If your calendar's blank, if you don't use a calendar, you probably should start using one and get some goals on there. If you do use a calendar, look at the things on your calendar. Are they really moving the needle, or are they just kind of time-wasting activities? So you may have some reprioritization to do there. But then for the things that are on your calendar, are you getting them done? If you find anything that you keep on pushing back, or if you find that you have more things than you can even accomplish on your calendar, you might need to scale back a little bit, and you might need to remove some of those things, because you're probably taking on more than you can, you're biting off more than you can chew. Your plate's full and you keep on saying yes to more and more things. You double book yourself, you can't commit, and you start backing out on commitments that you made, and then people will stop relying on you and reaching out to you because they know that you always flake, or that you can't follow through with your word. Honor your calendar, respect it. When something is on your calendar, nothing else can overlap what you're working on, unless it's, of course, an emergency. That's my advice for you today. Watch your productivity and your progress skyrocket when you implement these types of steps in your life. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please post them below in the video. Visit me at chrisbello.com. I usually have blog posts and podcasts and more information. Starting to get more freebies and stuff that you can download on there of value. One of the things that I made for this year that you can download is a daily task tracker, and also your goal tracker for the day. So I've got all kinds of things where you can use a Google Sheet file, save a copy onto your Google Drive, and start to track your daily goals and different tasks like that. I get so granular as to even track the number of pages I read every single day. My goal for 2019 is to read 10,000 pages, and that's because I thought it was a little more fair to go by pages instead of by books, because if you look at this Tony Robbins book versus this Ben Horowitz book, it's not really fair to call them each one book, because the Tony Robbins book is like twice the length. So go check that out. chrisbello.com/2019, I believe, is where you can get those free files. You just got to drop your email and you can get all those tools for free. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.